Betsy, thank you for joining me on the Spirit Farm podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, Caleb. I'm really excited to be here.
It is great to see you, to have gotten to know you just recently. We were introduced by a mutual friend in Orange County, but you live in Florida.
Yes. Yes, I've been down here about 15 years now.
15 years in Florida. Okay, I want to talk about so many things. I want to talk about your background as an athlete, your journey, your own personal health journey. You started multiple businesses, but let's jump in with like the main thing on your website. And as we talk, you use this phrase that you help people build their immunity. And there's no better time to talk about that than in the middle of a global pandemic. Right. So when you talk about building your immunity, what is it that you are getting at? How is it that you are helping people?
It's about being resilient. You know, our bodies are meant to fight diseases and heal itself. But the problem is our health state, and for most Americans and across the world, we're suffering with dysbiosis. We're suffering with elevated blood sugars, metabolic diseases, and this really compromises your immunity. So what my message is that our bodies are our homes. We really need to take care of it. And just by nourishing our body, doing healthy lifestyle, like activities like yoga and mindfulness, and just treating our body with respect and allow it to build its own immunity to help fight off things like diseases and viruses.
So I see that you integrate and you really see the value. What we do, what I do, what Spirit Farm is about is integrating that body, mind, heart, and soul. Because that's who we are. That's who we are. And when we don't pay attention to the whole person, we're missing it and things are out of alignment. And so I appreciate that about you. And as I've looked at your stuff and looked at even a course that you created, it's a lot about that kind of alignment or balance in a sense. And so what does that look like to you on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, just you personally, before even you get to your coaching clients?
Yeah, I have to say, I've been at this for a very long time. I knew my calling in life when I was 13 years old. I wanted to be a dietitian. I mean, you had mentioned earlier, I was an athlete. So I was very in tune with my body. I was always paying attention to what I ate, how it made me feel, you know, so I've had many years of kind of navigating this and just kind of playing around with what's comfortable with my body, because that's one thing as a dietitian working with individuals is everybody's different. And I treat everyone as a unique individual. There's no cookie cutter program that works for everyone. And it's navigating your own way and becoming very in tune and mindful in all aspects of life. Because, you know, at the beginning, I was just motivated in nutrition, but being an athlete, I knew that, of course, the benefits of the physical body as well. But the one piece that a lot of people are missing, it's the emotional and mental attitude toward your life, your relationship, not only with your body, but with those around you. And so it's really, that's why I say that it's that trifecta of bringing it all together, the mind, body, the spirit, eating well, exercising well, building on relationships. So for me, I try to have the most mindful approach to balance. That's kind of, my two words are resilience and balance, because it's, to me, taking care of my body is my number one priority, but also finding a way to manage everything and not become stressed out, because I'm one of those that likes to take it all and do a lot of things. I have a lot of different interests and businesses. And so I've found that I have to really take care of my mind too, and not stress myself out, because I know that compromises my immune system. And when I'm stressed out, I'm no good to anyone else, you know, so I really have to practice that on a daily basis. But yeah, I try to work on all three of those aspects.
Okay, now you mentioned being 13 and knowing your calling was to be a dietitian. How did that happen? What 13-year-old is like, you know what, gummy bears, pass. I am going to eat lean and I am going to help the world get this. How did that happen for you?
It's funny because it was such a dynamic shift, because when I was younger, I was probably the pickiest eater. I wouldn't eat anything green. My mom, I would always have to sit at the table hours after everyone's done because I was so picky. So my mom's still floored that I love vegetables and became a dietitian. But it was around the age of 13. And I remember my mom had picked up an article about sports and nutrition. And she's like, you should maybe read this, since you're heavily involved in gymnastics. And I read the article and it clicked for me. I was like, you know what? I always wanted to do something in the health field just because, I was so conscious of the body and exercise. And I didn't want to go into physical therapy. So as soon as I read that article, and that was way back in the, the late 80s, early 90s, like nutrition wasn't a big topic like it is now.
Right.
So I didn't have as many resources when I was younger until I got into school. And of course I studied nutrition in school, and then my career kind of evolved from there.
Yeah. 80s, early 90s, we were still eating Wonder Bread. Right.
Exactly.
I mean, it was just like
margarine and all that.
Yeah. How cheap can we buy the food? Right. I mean, it was just like, oh man.
And it's evolved so much. I mean, nutrition is the most fascinating thing. And even coupling in with, farm to table, I've partnered with a chef down here in Naples who's really into sustainable, getting our soils richer with nutrients. I mean, it's the whole thing now. It's really, looking at how can we grow things ourselves and eat cleaner foods and less processed foods like Wonder Bread and margarine, those things that really are destroying our health.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna get to more of that, but you said gymnastics. So you came up doing gymnastics. Was that your jam? Was that your deal?
Well, I have a lot of layers. So I obviously grew up doing dance first, then evolved into gymnastics. But my first really big sport was circus.
Circus.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I grew up in a circus. So if you look up Peru, Indiana, which is where I grew up, it's known as the Circus, Indiana. Yeah. Okay. Circus capital of the world. So that's where when the trains would come by with, the circus, they would winter quarter in Peru. And so they'd set up and they'd practice all their acts for their summer tour. And so when the trainers started to get older, they retired in Peru. And so they decided to start up a circus for the youth. And it's a summer program just for kids. I started at age 7. I was on the flying trapeze by age 13. And then I continued until I graduated from high school and got some scholarship money and everything. And then I left the circus and went on to college.
Oh my gosh. This is such an exciting bonus to your story. Okay.
Right.
So Purdue, Indiana, I'm imagining it because I've seen some movies, right? That you have the train come in, you have all the animals characters and the animals get off, and then the tents go up and it happens. So you were living in that place, and then they would stay there for the winter when they're not traveling. And then they're like, all right, let's teach these little whippersnappers how to do circus.
Absolutely.
And then just hooked you. Yeah. And you're flying across trapeze at 13. Unbelievable. Yes. Okay. So then you say college scholarship. There's college scholarships for circus?
Well, the circus will provide scholarship money because it's all a non-for-profit organization. And so we have a summer performance where people come in and watch us, they raise money and they'll provide scholarship money to some of the students to go on to school. But I did go to college and do gymnastics. So obviously I didn't do circus in college, but I did do gymnastics in college.
Okay. Where were you? Where was that?
Ball State, Indiana.
Ball State, Indiana. Okay. So I played volleyball in college, and Ball State was one of the few colleges, east of the Mississippi or whatever, that had men's volleyball. It was like Ball State, IPFW, Penn State, and then Loyola of Chicago. There were only a handful. But Ball State was one of them. And so you're doing gymnastics at Ball State. You're kind of like on the taller, lanky side, it seems. Is that true?
Tall? No, I'm like 5'2.5".
Oh, really?
I'm very small, petite. Yeah.
Okay. So that's, I could see it for gymnastics. And so that was working for you at Ball State all 4 years? No,
I only did it my freshman year. I was on the traveling team. I competed every meet, but I felt it was taking too much time away from my schooling. So I only did it 1 year, kind of burnt out at the end of that year, but I walked away with no injuries. In my entire career of circus and gymnastics, I never broke a bone, anything. I walked away injury-free. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So then Ball State, and you're studying nutrition, right? And then where does that go from there? You graduate from college and... Yeah.
So my story gets really interesting. So I graduated from my 4-year degree at Ball State. I did my internship with Purdue University. In that time, I had traveled on a spring break down to Mexico and met my future husband. and spring break in Mexico before I had graduated. In Mexico, yes. So I'd moved up to Northwest Indiana where I had my internship with Purdue University. And that year I competed for Miss Indiana and I won. And the interesting story behind it, because it loops into my nutrition, is we have a platform and we have a talent. They wouldn't let me perform circus, so I had to perform gymnastics. I fought for that one. Even at Miss America, they would not let me do circus. But anyway.
Okay, we got to talk about this for a second. Okay, so what was your vision? Like, if you could do circus as a part of your performance, what were you going to do?
Well, at that time, aerial silks were just coming out. So I was either going to do a silk routine or just a single trapeze, because there's a lot you can do with the trapeze. Yeah, some version of an aerial act up in the air. So
all right. And they were like, no, sorry.
No. Although someone has done that since then. I mean, they've obviously allowed it now, but back when
you wore them down. You planted the seed. And then they were like, all right.
Yeah. So, but it was a cool experience. But my platform
you won
was,
anyway. You won.
I won with the gymnastics
routine. You
routine.
didn't even need the stupid,
That's right. The talent's only a small portion of it. Really it's your platform and everything else, the interview. So
that's awesome. Okay. So you won Miss Indiana, and then you just kind of casually mentioned that you did Miss America as well.
Yeah. So it was in the year 2000. So 20 years ago, I walked that stage just last weekend. Yeah, it was 20 years ago last weekend. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. 20 years ago last weekend, you walked the Miss America stage. What's it like in the build up to that? I'm sorry, I got totally derailed by circus and then pageants.
It's okay.
But we'll quickly move past this and get to it. But like, what's it like? That's like the pinnacle of what we know of kind of, walking those types of stages. What was your experience with Miss America?
It was unreal. I mean, it's still to this day. I mean, it's as vivid as I remember being there and walking down that stage, that historic stage, because I know it's changed venues since then in Las Vegas and different places, but I was in the heart of Atlantic City where back in the 20s, they had their first Miss America pageant and I graced the same stage. So it's this black onyx stage and you walk down in this enormous arena, you're shaking like crazy because you're so nervous, but it was, the most memorable thing, honestly, it wasn't that, I had friends and family from everywhere coming to visit. I mean, that meant a lot that people were willing to travel that far to see me, but it was the friendships that I made. I actually was really good friends with the woman who had won, Angela Presbaracchio, who lives in California. We still message each other. And in fact, we had a virtual reunion of all the women who competed that year because it was our 20th anniversary. So it's those type of memories and friendships that you make that really make all the difference.
That's awesome. Yeah. Those women that you saw just recently, the 20-year anniversary, are they in good places mostly? Are they doing well? Are they doing good things in the world?
It seems to be. I mean, usually the type of women who are competing at Miss America are, very ambitious and they're well-schooled. They go on to have great careers and write books and do some really prominent things in their community. So I would absolutely say that for most everyone I was able to catch up with, everyone's had a very successful life.
Awesome. And you have gone on to do great things and write and create courses and coach people. And even before that, or even as part of that, you started a business around nut butter.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Yes. True.
Everybody loves them some peanut butter, almond butter, some kind of butter. How did this happen? You started the business, and what was that like? What was that journey like?
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of fell into it because after my husband and I moved from Indiana down to Florida because I got a job at the Cleveland Clinic and I was a diabetic educator and, I was doing that scene for a while. And I really got tired of the hospital environment because it was working on, just treatment instead of prevention. And I felt there was a real hole and people need to learn how to prevent diseases, not just hand them medication. So I started my own company, had my own consulting business, and I can go into more detail about that. But the funny thing with this nut butter is it wasn't like one day I woke up and like, I'm going to make a nut butter company. It was, I was at home. My family and friends have always nicknamed me Betsy Crocker because I'm always in the kitchen tinkering with recipes. You know, I make everything from scratch. I absolutely adore cooking. And my daughter was 3 at the time. And I remember she wouldn't eat peanut butter. And she was getting ready to go to like a preschool. And I was like, well, what am I going to pack in her lunch if I can't do ants on a log or apples and peanut butter? She doesn't, what kid doesn't eat peanut butter, right?
I grew up peanut butter.
Right. That was the first food I learned how to make, was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I was like, you know what? I am bound and determined to make a nut butter she'll enjoy. And I know why she didn't like the one I presented to her, because it was like the freshly ground one from Whole Foods, no flavoring, no sugar. And she thought it was bland. So I pull out my Vitamix. I start putting in nut seeds, put a pinch of pink Himalayan salt, a little bit of honey, maybe a little cinnamon. I snuck in the chia seeds, and out came this amazing butter. And I would take it into my office, and I would come back to the office 3 days later. I'm like, where'd my jar go? And they're like, oh, Betsy, we ate the entire jar. Make us another one.
Ate your jar of nut butter.
We ate a jar of nut butter, and they were like, this is phenomenal. So a lot of people kept encouraging, you know, you should sell this. And so why not start at a farmer's market? So I started with a business partner. We pitched tents on the weekend. We would sell 200 jars in like 4 to 5 hours. It was insane. People would come back and buy a case of it. And so after a year of every Friday, we grind the nuts and make the nut butter. My family, whoever wanted to volunteer for free peanut butter, would come work with us. And then we'd go to the market and sell on a Saturday. And then one day I was like, you know, our headquarters for Whole Foods is in Fort Lauderdale, which is about an hour and a half drive from here. So I drive over to Whole Foods. Yeah, I walk up and I meet with the category buyer, which I have no idea how the system works in the food industry. Like, you work with a buyer and then you get distributors and, you know, shelf placement, all of this. I have no idea. I'm clueless. But I walk in with my little presentation. I set my little jars down and I talk to him about how I did the story I just mentioned to you. I was making them for my daughter. They're really flavorful. And he looks at them, he picks up the jar and he goes, sets it down and goes, all right, I'll give you a shot. And we're thinking, okay, he's going to put us in the Naples store. He gave us the entire state of Florida. So we go from a farmer's market into about 27 grocery stores throughout the state of Florida. And I said, Brent, my mouth is open. I'm like, what? I go, you didn't even open it up and try it. He goes, I don't need to. He goes, I know it's going to be a success. So that was our first grocery store, was Whole Foods. And from there, it took about 3 years. We had worked into about 2,700 stores in 39 states, everywhere from Sprouts. We were in Wegmans up on the East Coast. We were in Kroger nationwide. So you could find us from coast to coast. And then, of course, retail online through Amazon. So yeah, it was a fun journey.
I'm sure that there were people listening or watching that had your nut butter. What was it called?
Sure. Betsy's Best. And I'm Betsy, and that was my best.
Okay, that's just remarkable. That doesn't happen. Most people work so hard and they don't even get that meeting with the guy at Whole Foods who can just rubber stamp it and put it in the whole state. And then it goes national from there, and Kroger and other brands. What a journey. What a just kind of like a smooth, I'm sure that it was difficult and there were challenges and you had to scale and I'm sure that there were all kinds of challenges, but just from the onset to have that immediate reception at the farmer's market, immediate favor at Whole Foods, that's unusual. And congratulations. That's what quite a fun ride.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And that's what brought me out to California so often. I was traveling nonstop, going to different states and shows and meeting with buyers. And it was wonderful because I love to travel. And so I would travel around, I'd visit all the different yoga studios, and, you know, I just really got a vibe for different areas. And so it was a fun journey. It was exhausting though, too. I mean, building a business and then having a family back home. I mean, I was on the go quite a bit. So that part of it was hard and stressful, but it was good.
Okay. And then it's just like, I'm done. Like my daughter has had enough nut butter. You know, she accepts the PBJs that I make her now. It's run its course. Did you just decide, I'm done?
You know, 2020 has probably been a real transition for a lot of people. Everyone was forced to slow down, including me. And then when I talk about balance, that's something that at that point in my life, when I was running that business, I couldn't keep balance. It was too hard. I was too stressed. I was on the go all the time. When the world hit pause, at that first moment, I was like freaked out. And then all of a sudden I was like, this is the best blessing I've ever had, because it really brought me back home. It helped me slow down and focus in on what's really important in my life and what was my true dharma, my meaning, my passion. Like, what do I want to continue doing the rest of my life? And it's not schlepping nut butters around the US. It's helping people, inspiring people, changing their lives. Like, through my passion and education and experiences, I can make a big impact, not just one person at a time. With how social media has really just opened up the world, that there's multiple people I can reach out to and really make an impact. So I decided the year 2020 is my balance to bring myself home to help others. So I've always wanted to do this, but I wanted to be a yoga teacher. And so I was able to sign up for an online course and complete that. So I have my yoga certification. I'm teaching classes here in a local studio. I've always wanted to advance my education in nutrition to learn more, because it's been many years since I've been in college and so much has changed in the world. So I've got on to study more integrative and functional nutrition medicine, so I can really get to the root of the health issues and not just treat it with like, here's a diet, eat more plant-based. It's like, why are you having high blood sugars? You know, what is this inflammation that's going on? The underlying disease issue might be dysbiosis in the gut. It might be micronutrients or macronutrients.
What does that mean, Betsy?
Dysbiosis is leaky gut. And as maybe many of your listeners don't know, 80% of your immune system is housed in your gut. And so when you're talking about fighting a virus, it's not slapping a mask on your face, it's healing your gut and making sure that you don't have leaky gut, you don't have this inflammation going on, because that gut-brain axis is really important. And our mood, our, you know, how we feel, what we think, the foods we crave, a lot of that's coming from our gut and our bacteria telling our brain what to think and how to act. So it's really fascinating.
A lot of people talk about probiotics when they talk about gut. Where does that factor in? How would you weight that in terms of significance?
Really, it's what's more important that they're not emphasizing enough is the prebiotic. It's the prebiotic that allows the probiotic to flourish. And we are learning so much about probiotics. And the thing you have to be real careful is, as we study these more, each probiotic is, the bacteria strain is meant to do a different thing in your body. And so you want to make sure you have the right strain for what your issue is. And so when you go to a store and you just pick up a probiotic, you look at all the little bacteria names on the back, you have no idea what that's doing. So here's someone who might have loose stools and they're taking a probiotic that actually causes loose stools. So it could be making their symptoms worse or quite the opposite. So there are some strains that actually help with depression or anxiety. There's some strains that are meant for inflammation. There's some strains that are helping with blood sugar. So as we dive in more, eventually what is going to happen is they're going to do a culture of our colon and our bacteria. They're going to see what you're missing, and then they're going to put the formula together that's meant for your gut. And so I'm already starting
formula for you.
And that's everything is nutrigenomics, DNA based, gut based. I mean, everything's being so fine tuned that we will have a pill that's kind of meant for each of us. So right now I'm doing some of that currently with what tools are available. So I am doing stool testing. I am doing nutrigenomics and DNA testing. I'm doing food sensitivity testing, because I want to know exactly what the issue is. And then from there, we work on your treatment plan, not just kind of guessing and saying, well, I think something's wrong. Like, when they give you the diagnosis of IBS, right? It's basically, I don't know what you have, just something's wrong with your gut. That's what that means. The doctor's not going to dig in. And that's what IBS means.
It takes the term BS to a whole new, appropriate realm, doesn't it?
Does. And see, this is what aggravates me about the current healthcare system, is that's how they treat you. Here's your remedy, take a pill, we'll see you later. But what is it that caused that issue to happen? Those are the questions I ask. I want to get to the root. I want to find the issue, calm the inflammation, start the healing process, because the body is resilient. The body is built to heal itself. We just get in the way. Our environment gets in the way, our stress, our food, our attitude towards our body. I mean, even self-talk, the way we talk to our body can affect the cells in your body. I always love to say this, and one day I'm going to print a t-shirt, nobody steal my idea, but your issue is in your tissue. I mean, that's literally, you hold those emotions in there, you hold those bad foods and toxins and environmental chemicals hold in your tissue. So sometimes it's a real cleansing. And when you talk about my website and some of the programs, I offer a lot of types of cleansing programs that are, whole food based or fasting based to really help the body. optimize its nutrients so it can heal itself.
I love it. I love it. I'm all about that stuff, Betsy. And yeah, maybe we've even like, I'm interested personally. I would love to go down that path of trying to figure out what it is specifically to me and do those things, test those things, figure out those foods. I haven't gone to that degree. I've just done the general things. When you said the issues in the tissue, by the way, you can get that shirt printed for yourself later today. You can just go online and have it done, and then just have more made. And no one will take it. We'll just officially say that's trademarked. Betsy.
Take it. No, actually, I think Darlene shared that saying with me. I've heard her say it before. So
there's a book that my wife Hillary has read called "The Body Keeps the Score." Have you heard of that?
No.
It's kind of an emotional healing type of book, but it's a similar concept. Like your body, your emotions are stored in your body, so it's not just the nutrient deficit, like you were indicating. There's also that emotional, there's that self-talk, there's that mental. It's all connected.
Absolutely.
And it's all impacting us. And so kind of purging, detoxing, creating health for the whole unique, specialized self. That's what you do. It's so exciting. Okay. What kind of people are you working with? And what does a journey with Betsy look like for someone who might be open to coaching?
Okay. Well, if you have a pulse, I'll work with you. No, seriously, any age. My specialty is I'm a diabetic educator. So I work a lot with the metabolically challenged, which is 90% of our American population has a metabolic issue. 90%.
Okay. And just say a little bit more about what that means in terms of metabolizing.
Yeah, so it could be obviously diabetes or pre-diabetes, or just even a metabolic issue where maybe your blood sugars are kind of out of range. It could be something that might be inflammation based. Most people are insulin resistance, and that's probably the number one key, because that's what leads into the pre-diabetes is the insulin resistance. So,
okay. So that's a lot of the people that you work with have something like that going on.
Or gut issues, allergy, like food sensitivities. I work a lot with that. I think because of this issue with our food and how processed it is, and the GMO ingredients that are out there and all the toxins and things that are foreign to our body, it's causing this breakdown of our mucosa lining, which exposes the little junctures. They become leaky. And so the food particles then get between the microvilli, absorb into the bloodstream, and that's what, inflammation. So get this, if you just eat one meal out at a fast food restaurant, in 4 hours, you'll have dysbiosis. In 4 hours, it happens that fast.
Now, Betsy, is that all fast food restaurants, or is like Chick-fil-A in a category of its own? Or
I don't want to drop names. It's really not. It's not, I don't want to point fingers at certain restaurants. It's the ingredients that they're using, the chemicals that are in there. It's like trans fats, things that are fried. They're still using very cheap chemicals, sugar being another one, white breads, flours, all of that. That's what's causing it, but not to scare you. I mean, if you eat a healthy diet, like I said, prebiotics, you can restore that balance back. But that's the problem, is so many Americans eat that way on such a constant basis that that underlying inflammation is always there, leading to the insulin resistance.
Okay. So prebiotics, I need to know a little bit of what that is, and then just kind of continue that thought with what should we be eating today? On a Tuesday, on a Friday. How do you think about like what's in your fridge and what you want to try to accomplish with what you put in your body during the day?
Yeah. So think of your little bacteria in your gut as vegetarians. They love plant food. They love the fiber. They love things like flaxseed and artichoke and asparagus, fruits, vegetables. They feed off of that. So when you don't feed your body that type of nourishment, those bacteria die. And the bacteria that thrive are the ones that are feeding off of the white breads and sugars. And those are the ones that are causing more damage and inflammation in our gut. So keep that in mind. You are eating, when you sit down and eat a meal, you're not only eating to nourish yourself, you're eating to keep your bacteria thriving. And so what you eat is what's going to determine what your gut microbiome is like. So like I said, it's not necessarily the probiotic. You have, depending on how bad your dysbiosis is, you might have to take some probiotics to inoculate your gut with the healthy ones, and then you have to continue feeding them with that plant-based high fiber diet. So what I tell people when I'm working with them is, one, you don't have to eat perfect 100% of the time. I like to adopt to the 80-20 rule. 80%, please make it as healthy as you can. Now, if you're on a healing journey, it's more like 90%. Let's eat it really clean. 10% can kind of be, throwing in your favorite foods or a hamburger once in a while. But the majority of your diet should be more on the plant slant, as I like to say. So more plant-based eating.
I like
plant
it.
Slant. Yeah. So I always say, use your hands as your guide. So if you were to take your hands and make 2 fists and put them side to side, that's how much vegetable you should be eating at every meal, including breakfast. So handful of spinach in your smoothie, and make an omelet with a bunch of veggies would be one thing to do. Now, 1 fist is the size of the carbohydrate. So no more than like maybe a half a cup to a cup. And then the palm of your hand is your protein. Okay. And then your thumbs can be like your healthy fats, like avocado or olive oil or healthy nuts or seeds.
So it's all right here.
All right here. And then the size of your 2 hands together is the size of your stomach. So you have to be mindful on how much you eat. The portions.
Yeah. Okay. So I've stumbled on this deal called Athletic Greens. Have you heard of Athletic Greens?
No.
A green powder that it's from New Zealand or something like that. So I've done that. So let's just use that as like on the better side of supplements. I think some supplements that you just get at whatever big box store are probably just garbage. But this, I don't know. I like this. Where do you put like good supplements? Do they play a role, or if you're doing like the 2 fists of veggies, you don't even need it kind of a thing?
There are some really good freeze-dried powders out there. One of my favorite companies is Koya, based out of Indiana, where they're high quality, they're picked at their prime, they're freeze-dried, and then they turn them into a powder. And those can absolutely be incorporated. In fact, the one I buy from them is called broccoli sprouts. And the reason I do broccoli sprouts is because I've had my DNA tested, and I have a very high pathway or risk factor of oxidative stress, and I have trouble detoxing because of my gene SNPs. So if you eat sulforaphane, which sulforaphane is only found in broccoli and broccoli sprouts, now I would have to eat almost 7 cups of broccoli to get as much sulforaphane as I would find in the sprouts. So I actually buy their sprout powder because it's very easy to sprinkle into my food. And then I also grow my own microgreens because they grow within 5 days. They're very, very easy to grow right on your windowsill in your house. So I have my fresh microgreens, and then I have my concentrated powder, and I keep that in my diet on a daily basis to prevent my genes from switching into an oxidative state, because that sulforaphane goes in there and makes sure that structure in my DNA is where it should be. So it's important, the power of food. It's really amazing that you want to try to eat food first. I mean, I'm a firm believer in that because there's a lot of synergy in the nutrients that are found in apples and fruits and things, vegetables included. So when you isolate them out and take a supplement of just one, it doesn't really have that same synergy as eating the food source itself. So the reason there's a purpose for supplements, and that's if I'm trying to optimize a nutrient that might be deficient, because I do micronutrient testing. So we can see what vitamins and minerals you're deficient. And when we find those deficiencies, we optimize the diet. But if we see that's not enough to elevate, then we can add a supplement in to kind of help assist that coming back to a normal level.
And all of this, the food, the exercise, the mindfulness practices, all of this kind of layering in, you being you, is building that immunity, right? The place where we started.
Yes.
Okay. So if people wanted to continue to learn from you, or maybe even talk to you about engaging in some kind of relationship, do you do like group coaching relationships? Is it just one-on-one? How does it work for you?
I do one-on-one. I like to personalize everything, especially if there's special issues. But I do all sorts of group lecturing. I mean, around my town here, I go to country clubs and give lectures. I set up wellness programs. I do corporate wellness. So I can easily accommodate if there's a group with a similar interest. Maybe it's building your resiliency and optimizing your nutrition, or maybe it's all nutrigenomics based. I mean, I can do courses like that. I have put together a program called the Get Back program, which is coupling mindfulness, working with a monk, and working on your nutrition, because obviously stress can really inhibit your immune system. So we're wanting, especially with everything going on this year, I think people are more stressed out than ever. So it's a 14-day program that teaches you mindfulness practice, meditation, along with healthy plant-based eating. You can do it at the convenience of your own home, just as you roll through it. I mean, you don't have to do it in 14 days. It could take you 14 weeks. So I do have programs and courses like that too.
And we can find you at healthyconceptsconsulting.com.
Yep.
healthyconceptsconsulting.com. Or what else? Social media. Where should we find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook also, Healthy Concepts Consulting, and you can find me on Instagram, Purely Betsy.
Purely Betsy.
Yeah.
Betsy, so fun. I knew that we were going to take a deep dive into some of the nutritional stuff. I did not know that we were going to hit on Circus and
Miss America.
Yeah. And oh my gosh. Okay. So fun. All right. We talked about our mutual friend in Orange County. I live now in Paradise Valley, Phoenix, Scottsdale area of Arizona. You ever get here, let's maybe work out something where you can do one of your kind of group things here for some folks.
I would love
or
that.
Maybe we'll have you to one of our Spirit Farm retreats in the future.
Fabulous.
Love what you're doing. Thanks for being you, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.